In preparation for thinking about careers, let's talk a little bit about happiness. The big question here is, can you buy happiness? In other words, if you pick a career that has a great salary, will that help you be happy? Let's think about it for a minute. First thing we have to think about is, what is the relationship between money and happiness? In other words, as you earn more money, do you actually become happier? And if so, what's the relationship look like? There are a couple models. The first model is the infinite happiness model. I like to call this the David Lee Roth model of happiness. He was famous for saying money can't buy happiness, but it can buy a boat big enough to sail right up next to it on. Now in this model, the more you make, the happier you become. And it goes on and on and on. So with this model, Bill Gates is less happy than Warren Buffett because Warren Buffett replaced Bill Gates as the richest person in the world. Now this seems a bit silly. Obviously, there has to be some limit. And that brings us to what we call the limited happiness model. In the limited happiness model, you don't become happier and happier as you earn more money. Instead, there's some point beyond which more money can't make you any happier. Now, think about that for a second. How much money do you think you have to make in order to be happy? How much would you need beyond which more money wouldn't make you any happier? The actual number probably will surprise you a little bit. When you look at global data on happiness, as well as a number of other research studies, what we typically find is this model works pretty well, and once you get right around $20,000, $25,000, more money doesn't seem to relate to any increase in self-satisfaction or what we call happiness. Again, once you get to about $25,000 a year, more money doesn't make you any happier. Now clearly if you're poor, that's going to have a negative impact, but more money isn't going to make you that happy. Our society is very focused on earning a good salary, and we do a pretty good job of it. Americans, by far, spend far more per capita than our nearest competitors in the world. In fact, in the United States, having a pretty good salary isn't considered to be that great. People that earn about $50,000 a year are considered to have an average salary, and yet that puts them within the top 1% of the world's earners. Over time, more people in the United States have become concerned with being well off financially than developing a personal life philosophy that's meaningful to them. What do we get for all of this? What do we get for all this hard work? If you look at the United States, we work harder than anyone else in the world. We put in more hours than we used to. We put in more hours of overtime. We even work harder than medieval peasants. We don't take much time off either, even compared with other industrialized countries in Europe. For example, when you look at the number of paid vacation days we take as compared to the number of paid vacation days in Europe, it's far, far less, and sometimes none at all. Over time, our real salaries have gone up significantly. And yet, over time, our relative happiness has not changed one bit. So what is happiness? What is the relationship between money and happiness? Why do we keep wanting more and more stuff, more and more money? Well, sadly, that's just the way our brain is wired. We generally tend to adapt to whatever we have, so that what we have now is considered to be neutral, and we think that in order to be happy, we need more. Once we get to that more level, that becomes neutral, and then we think we need even more to be happy. It's a never-ending cycle. We also tend to judge our own happiness based upon what people around us have. And we generally compare up when we look at things around us. So if we have a house, we generally tend to look at the houses on our block and we compare ourselves to the better houses rather than the ones that are like ours or lower. So we always want a little bit more. And yet when people are asked to rate the relative importance of money, what we find is that people who say that money is very important generally are far less satisfied than people that say that money is not important. In other words, people that place importance on worldly goods generally are less happy than those that don't. But our work environment is set up to make us work even harder and try to earn even more money. So what is happiness? Well, happy people generally tend to have work and leisure that engages their skills, things that they do every day that they enjoy and that gives them satisfaction. Happiness really doesn't seem very related at all to things like money. So what's the bottom line for you in thinking about careers? Here's a thought. If you're 20 years old, cognitive science teaches us that you have about 15 years worth of reliable memories. You can probably remember things back to when you're about 5. Now you're going to work for about 30 years of your life on average. Some more, some maybe a little bit less. What that means is that you're going to work about twice as long as you've been alive to this point. And you're going to go to work 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, every single week. Maybe you'll get to take vacations for those 30 years. If you do it just for a salary, you are basically putting yourself in jail. It's going to be a sentence, not a salary. In other words, you're going to be doing something you don't enjoy just for the money, and the money is not going to buy your happiness back. A better option is to find a career that fits what you really enjoy and pick that. If you can go every day to work and enjoy what you're doing, those 30 years will be satisfying and rewarding, and they'll fly by. So, as you're looking through careers, think about that. And good luck.